This is a walkthrough of 11-2 work together on page 264 in your general journal accounting book. So we are going to go to page 264 and I am going to read it to you. It says, journalizing cash receipts, proving and ruling a cash receipts journal. So those will be our objectives for this problem. So it says, cash receipts journal page 16 for graphics company's us at the moment, is given in the working paper. So here's page 16. This is tab 11-2 work together. Here's our cash receipts journal. Your instructor will guide you through the following examples. I'm your instructor, so let's guide. Okay, so using the current year, journalize the following transactions beginning on line 1. Source documents are abbreviated as follows. R for receipt, which we issue anytime we receive cash that is not part of daily sales, and cash register tape T, which at the end of the day, our 20, 30-year-old adding machine, our cash register, we print off the receipt, wrote T, and then we wrote the day as well, right? So on October 4th, we received cash on account from Jessica Oakley for $371, covering sales invoice 96 and receipt 144. So we know the very first thing we need to do is come in here and write our date. So 2014, because it's the current year, the month is October. Well, this looks a little funny, so let's fix it. There, that's much better, isn't it? I'm going to make the cell a little bit shorter too. Okay. Received cash on account from Jessica Oakley. Well, we know that in the account title, all we put is the name of our customer. In this case, our customer's name is Jessica Oakley. We have to have a doc number. Our doc number is going to be receipt 144. We don't put anything in post-ref, right? Not for this one. Now we have to determine which columns we're going to use. Is this a general debit or credit? Is it going to be an accounts receivable credit, a sales tax payable credit, and or a cash debit? Well, we know that we received cash on account. So cash on account, receiving cash on account tells us it's accounts receivable. So I'm going to put it in the accounts receivable credit column. So somebody owed us money and they're paying on it. Accounts receivable is an asset account. The way you reduce an asset account is using a credit. So that's why it's accounts receivable credit. This was for $371. And of course, every transaction has to have a debit part and a credit part. Well, here's our credit piece and here's our debit piece, right? We received cash. We received cash. We know we increased cash. Cash is an asset. We increase an asset with the debit. So $371. Are we finished with this transaction? I believe that we are. Oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot to put the day for the date. Okay. October 4th. There we go. We got it now. Moving on to October 13th. We recorded cash and credit card sales of $8,361.60 plus sales tax of $501.70 for a total of $8,863.30. And this was tape number 13. So what do we put in account title? We put a check mark, right? Because we don't need an account title. So we put the check mark to indicate that we did not forget the account title. I'm going to teach you guys how to insert a check mark. You go to Insert. You go to Symbol on the right-hand side. Where it says Font, you're going to change this to Wingding. And it's going to be the first Wingdings. We're going to scroll all the way to the bottom. We can do a bomb or I think I saw a skull and crossbones in there somewhere. Okay, so we're going to scroll all the way to the bottom because we actually want a check mark. None of these other silly things. Click the check mark, click Insert. Close, and boom, we have a check mark. Fantastic. Okay, next thing we want to do is we want to put in our document number, which is T13 for daily sales tape from the 13th of October. We want to put a post ref. If you recall, this post ref, we want to put another check mark. So, and that indicates the account's not posted singly. This is chapter 12, and we will get there. So for now, just put a check mark. Again, this is not a general debit or credit, right? This has nothing to do with our accounts receivable. But it does say that we had some sales. So our sales were for $8,361.60. It says we had some sales tax, so it's going to be sales tax payable because we're increasing the amount that we owe in sales tax, so $501.70. And then we need to add these together, right? So we can look in the book to give us a total. Or we can add these together, and down here it tells us it's $8,863.30. All right, so we're done with this transaction now, right? So we're going to move on to the 30th. So on October 30th, We received cash on account from Roberto Sierra for $5,989, covering sales invoice S97, and it was on receipt 145. So, account title, again, it's an accounts receivable. It's a received cash on accounts. We need to put the customer's name, which is Roberto Sierra. We need to put a document number, which is receipt number 145. We have nothing in post-ref. This is an accounts receivable. He owed us money. He paid it. He's reducing his obligation to us. Accounts receivable is an asset. We reduced that asset with a credit. So it's for $5,989 and no cents. And then, of course, that's how much cash we received as well. So we're going to put that in the cash debit column as well. We're increasing our cash. Cash is an asset. You increase it with the debit. Okay, so moving on to step number 5. Step number 5 says, for the end of the month, total and prove cash receipts and journal page 16. We can do this, right? So first step is we write the day. What month is it? It's October. If you don't know that October has 31 days in it, come see me and I will show you the knuckle trick. Okay, so 31 October. We're going to write the word totals because it's the end of the month. We're not carrying this forward. We're not closing out the page. We're writing the word totals. So we have nothing in our debit column for general, nothing in our credit column for general. Accounts receivable, though, it sure looks like we have a couple things in here, right? So a quick way to do this is go to Home. You can click the Auto Sum button. And Auto Sum says, do you just want this one? And we say, no, we want all of these. So we drag it up and select them. Now we can copy this one, which I use Control C, or we can do it this way. And then we can paste and then paste again. Whoops, I hit the wrong button. So let's copy, paste, and paste. Okay, another thing we can do, and personally I like this method the best, is click on this corner and drag it over. All right, so now we have all of our subtotals. So we want to come down here to this little box. See, it's marked with a 5. It corresponds to number 5 in the book. And we want to fill this out. We have nothing for our general debit. We have nothing for our general credit. Accounts receivable credit was $63.60. Sales credit was $83.61.60. And guess what? I need cents on these. $501.70 is our sales tax payable credit, and our cash debit is $15,223.30. Okay, so I need cents on all of these, so I'm just going to highlight them. I'm going to click this button right here. I now have cents. So again, I want to sum each of these columns. I say OK, or I push the wrong button. And actually, I want it to sum everything in this column, right? So I'm going to get this little arrow, drag it up, and hit Enter. I'm going to copy and paste. Oh, I have a merge going on here I need to fix. Okay, let me make the cell a little bit bigger. There we go. So copied and pasted. Oh, let me get rid of these because I need to get rid of all the crazy formatting issues. All right. So it looks like my credits and my debits equal. So that means that I proved my cash receipts journal. So let's move on to step number 6. Step number 6 says, prove cash. The October 1st cash account balance in the general ledger was $11,764.96. Well, what do we do with that? This is the month of October. It just told us our balance on October 1st. We have a line that says cash on hand at the beginning of the month. So we're going to put $11,764.96. Again, if we want cents on here, we can just click this button, make this a little bit bigger, and we have what we need. Then we want our total cash received during the month. Well, where can we find that information? Probably in our cash receipts journal, right? That tells us how much cash we received. And conveniently, we just totaled the journal for the month. So we'll look at our cash debit column because we increased cash with the debit. We're going to put $15,223.30. We're going to go ahead and increase all of these with this button. So now equals total. So equals means we have to add these two together. So we're going to say equals this. We can push the plus sign, click this one. These are the two cells we want to add. Great. So our total cash on hand before we subtract what we spent was $26,988.26. Less total cash paid during the month. Well, where can we find how much cash was paid out during the month? I personally would go look in the cash payments journal that had already been totaled. So our book says on October 31st, cash credit total in the cash payments journal is $18,704.16. So we put it in our little cash proof here. This says equals cash balance on hand at the end of the month. So this is how much cash we had and how much we brought in. This is how much we spent. So we probably need to subtract these two. Again, we can do an equal sign, click the first one, click, do a minus sign, click the second one. So our cash on hand should be $8,284.10. So the last line for problem number 6 says on October 31st, the balance on the next unused check stub was $8,284.10, which we know was correct because we reconciled our bank statement and it told us that that was a correct amount as well. So it looks like we proved cash. So the cash account balance matches what's on our check stub, so $8,284.10. So it looks like we haven't made any errors as of late. And the very last thing that it tells us to do is to rule page 16 of the cash payments journal. Well, this is page 16, so now we're going to rule it. If you recall, that means we need a single line and a double line. So I'm going to do this the cheater way, that I'm going to highlight these I'm going to highlight these 6 cells, right? I'm going to come over here, I'm going to go to more borders, and I know on the top I want a thick line, but I want it to be black as well. So we're going to do a thick line here and click. And then I know below it I need a double line because that tells me this thick black line tells me there's a subtotal, and this this double line right here, this tells me that I proved it and that my debits and credits equal. So I can click OK. If I look at it, here are my rulings, and it looks like I have finished all of the problems for this. And if you just heard, the dog barked again. So this is it for 11-2 work together, and it is now your turn to complete 11-2 on your own. Good luck.